In the heat-heavy summer of 1904, 41 travelers stepped into a quiet boarding house at 63 Barrow Street and never set foot back outside. No trunks were reclaimed. No train seats were reserved. No final notes were penned to mothers or wives. Shoes remained lined by warm beds, and a ledger closed on names that stopped. The city clerk stamped the file 1904 102. The mayor ordered it sealed after a prayer breakfast. The mission called the rumors wicked. The sheriff called it God's business. I call it what it was, a door that closed and would not open. Before we descend, answer me plainly. Can you hold a lantern when the truth refuses to be polite? If yes, you belong here. This is the room where the past plays dead, but here's everything. To lock yourself to this telling, type, "The veil is broken," twice in the comments, and do not break eye contact with the dark. And because I need to know how far this voice travels, tell me where you are listening from, your city, your country, and press subscribe like you are fixing the latch behind us. Ready? Her name was Mrs. Clara Duval, a widow of French Creole stock. The women's auxiliaries adored her. 2 yellow fever seasons bowed to her steady hands. They said her tea quieted grief and her words coaxed heat out of feverish skin. Pastors swore she had a gift for tired spirits. If rest can be found anywhere, one declared, it is under her roof. And invitations slipped through parishes and tents. You will be renewed. You will be relieved. You will be restored. They came from Mississippi pine woods, from Tennessee riverbanks, from mission towns in southern Georgia. They came to sleep, to pray, to mend. Among them was Lenora Kittredge, a church pianist of 26 whose sister Amelia counted time by letters. In March, Lenora wrote that the house smelled of lavender and myrrh, that the rooms stayed warm though rain swept the porches, that each evening a sweet haze Clara called cleansing incense drifted like a second hymn. It's as if she knows me, Lenora wrote. That letter bore the date March 15th. Then quiet weeks thickened. In June, Amelia stepped off the train with yellow roses and a worry that would not go down, walked the shaded street to 63 Barrow, and lifted her hand to knock. Clara Duval opened the door in a high-collared black dress, silver hair pinned, voice as lace. "Miss Kittredge," she said as if the house had rehearsed the name. "What a grace. How may I help you?" "My sister Lenora," Amelia answered. "She wrote she was here." Clara's smile did not move. "She is here, in a manner of speaking," she said. "She has entered a period of spiritual cleansing silence. No visitors. The Lord is doing a great work in her soul. I rode 4 hours by train," Amelia said. "Let me see her 1 minute. We mustn't interrupt." Clara replied smooth, and the door closed with a hymn's last note. Amelia stood in the garden long after the latch clicked. The house was too calm, no footsteps, no song. Even the old bones of the place seemed to hold their breath. A sweetness hung in the air, chamomile laced with something almost narcotic, that did not make her ill so much as unsteady, like the ground had tilted a degree and forgotten to tell her. She left without making a scene, but a weight fixed beneath her ribs. Whatever kindness lived behind those walls had teeth. At dawn she sat alone in a cafe near the station, turning a cup of coffee gone cold. Each blink replayed Clara's refusal and the phrase "her soul is very close to breaking through." Amelia knew church talk. She taught Sunday school, memorized hymns, stood at revivals. That sentence was not scripture, it was doctrine bent to excuse silence. She went to the clinic on Vine Street. Dr. Josiah Bell, once a field surgeon, then a fever doctor, looked up from a notebook blotched with ink and herbs. "She stopped writing you too, didn't she?" he asked. "Lenora," she said. He nodded. "Headaches, drifting, trouble sleeping," he murmured. "She came twice in March. Tests were clean. She spoke of dreams like her soul was trying to leave her body. Then she vanished." He opened a small leather book, names, dates, symptoms. A dozen former guests told the same story, fatigue, floating memory fog, and a conviction they were almost finished with something they could not name. "She is dosing them," Bell said. "Opiates braided with roots and fragrant oils. Enough to quiet the will, enough to make leaving feel like betrayal." Amelia shut the book and met his eyes. They would return before nightfall. Night soaked the porches when they returned to Barrow Street. A notice on the chapel door said Mrs. Duval had gone to Baton Rouge for a healing convocation. The house would sit empty in prayer. They did not knock. Belle's lantern breathed a small orange circle as they slid through the side cellar door. The air hit first, sweet, thick, enveloping. Not rot. Perfume. The cellar ran the length of the house in 3 chambers. The first was ordinary rows of jars, sacks of meal, peaches sealed under wax. The second was theatre. Glass bottles lined the walls, labels in a tidy hand and ice, valerian, angelica, clove, laudanum. A long table waited under oilcloth. Trays held dried petals, dark powders, and bundles of fennel and sage. Above it hung a cross woven from vines and tied with red twine. Not medicine, Belle said quietly. A stage. Amelia found a wooden box of envelopes. Dozens had been slit open and stacked by month. Others were sealed in Clara's hand. She saw Lenora's name and pulled the letter free. Inside was an imitation of Lenora's script, perfect down to the curl of the I. All is well. I feel lighter each day. Do not worry if you do not hear from me. Clara says I am close to something beautiful. Belle read over her shoulder, then studied the signature as if it might confess. She kept their lives moving, he murmured, after she stopped them. A narrow hall led to the 3rd chamber. Cold met them there. The floor was stone. Metal containers stood in 2 neat rows, 7 in all, each with latches and a ribboned card. Belle opened the nearest. A middle-aged man lay inside in a black suit and collar, hands folded, lips blued. A woman in a nursing dress slept in the next, rosary around bound wrists. A hymn book rested on the chest of a third. Cards carried names, arrival dates, and a final line marked departure. Lenora Kittredge's card was there, her departure blank, the lantern guttered. Footsteps crossed the boards above, unhurried, domestic. The front door opened and closed with a soft click. A lock slid home. Then her voice came down the stairwell, warm as poured tea. Dr. Bell, Miss Kittredge, I see your prints in my garden. Come up, please, or stay. Either way, you will listen. The basement door creaked and spilled a strip of gold down the steps. Clara's silhouette rested at the top, a figure in white with a low lamp. You have seen my work, she said. Now you will misunderstand it. She began to descend, humming a candle hymn that bent in stone air. Amelia guided Belle toward the cold room of metal boxes. The lamp painted Clara's face in ruins. No anger there, only a careful sorrow. They came to me broken, she said, moving her hand along a lid as if blessing it. Sick in body, sick in spirit. I gave them what no one else would: rest, nothing cruel, only peace. You drugged them, Belle answered. You made sleep a sentence. I freed them, she said. Reverend Kearney prayed every night for pain to leave his bones. Sister Melrose cried through dusk. Brother Ely begged God for rest. God did not answer. I did. Where is my sister? Safe, dreaming, not ready to be disturbed. No, I am not asking, Amelia said. I am telling you. Where? In the final room, Clara said. Music, linen, candles to keep her dreams bright. She tells me about butterflies' laughter, a river like gold. You will hate me for waking her too soon. You will pull her back into disappointment. You are not God? Amelia whispered. No, Clara said, but I listen better than he does. Belle moved, past Clara and into the stairwell. She did not stop him. She only watched, like a teacher permitting the hard lesson. You should not have come alone, she said. Waking is cruel when a soul has chosen sleep. She turned and climbed unhurried. Certain time would do her work. If you are still here, you have crossed a line. Seal it type. The veil is broken. Twice to remember who you were before this house and who you are after. Amelia did not wait. As Clara's tread faded, she ran through the narrow hall, past the bottles and the still faces, up into a kitchen smelling of cinnamon and camphor. The hallway looked familiar. Yellow vines, the same creak, yet the distance was wrong. 10 steps became 20. Corners appeared where none existed. A corridor of doors appeared, numbered in elegant ink, 3, 5, 7, 9, all odd, all closed, all silent, all closed. Amelia reached for door 5, but the handle would not turn. Behind her, the air pressed like someone had arrived without sound. She looked back. Nothing but wallpaper breathing. Numbers shifted as she moved. The doors now read 4, 6, 8, no windows, no end. From beyond the farthest door came a low cadence, layered voices speaking a language that felt like Latin reduced to prayer and rebuilt older. She pressed her ear to the wood. Her name floated through it. Amelia, said so cleanly she staggered. Clara stood at the corridor's end, white dress unstained, hands folded. "Did you think the house would let you take her?" she asked, almost kind. "Where is she?" "In the final room," Clara said. "You will not find it that way." Amelia turned the cold handle anyway. The door opened onto a closet-sized chamber lined with shelves. Glass jars floated with lives, a lock of hair, a rosary, a wedding ring, a folded note sealed with wax, a strip of lace browned by time. A chair sat in the center. A man, what had been a man, rested propped in a tattered preacher's coat, hands folded, eyes clouded, lips moving. His whisper braided with the layered chant. Along the walls, others stood upright like mannequins in Sunday clothes, heads bowed, preserved, watchful. It was a congregation without air. Amelia closed the door before understanding could bite and ran. The corridor shifted under her feet, doors opening, doors closing, numbers reversing, symbols appearing she could not name. She called for Belle and heard only padding footsteps far away. Then, without any reason she knew, Lenora's room. Not a number, a scent, lemongrass, vanilla, the powder her sister wore since school. The door stood ajar. Candlelight shook inside like a frightened animal. Lenora lay on a narrow bed, hands folded, hair combed like a crown, white gown stitched with blue flowers. Her chest rose and fell, shallow, steady, warm to the touch, alive. "Lenora," Amelia whispered. "It's me. I'm here." No answer. She pressed harder, shook, pleaded. The door clicked shut. Clara stood in the room, lantern dark. "She is dreaming," she said, voice hushed. "Beautiful things. Bright water, children laughing. Butterflies that land on her hands." "Wake her," Amelia said. "You will tear the stitch I set in her grief," Clara answered. "You will drag her back into noise." "She sees what she could not see awake," Clara said. "The mind is a locked chapel, I carry the key. Give me one more night and she will choose for herself." Amelia bent until her forehead touched Lenora's. "She already chose to live," she said. "She wrote to me. I wrote to you." Clara answered, "Without shame, because you would suffer, and suffering is waste." "You impersonated her. I extended her peace," Clara said. "The institution prefers order. Families prefer words. I provided both. You think that is corruption. I call it charity." The air thickened, sticky sweet, as if breath had to be pulled through gauze. The chant pressed through the walls like a tide. Amelia slid an arm under Lenora's shoulders, trying to lift. A tremor moved through the bed, mechanical from deep in the house. Lenora's eyelids fluttered but did not wake. "She is in the half place now," Clara murmured. "If you tear her back, she will cry for weeks and hate you quietly. If you let me finish, she will sleep without fear. The church will praise her blessed rest. The mayor will sign. The letters will go out. Your mother will not break. You are telling me the town is in on it." Clara tilted her head. "Not in on it. Grateful for it. They bring me what they cannot hold. I keep the peace." A faint footfall echoed somewhere beyond the warped corridor. Then another, steady and human. "Duck a bell," Amelia said under her breath. Clara heard and smiled without looking away. "He will find what he is meant to find," she said. "He will understand, and hate understanding. He will blame tinctures and fumes so he need not name mercy." Amelia reached for Lenora's wrist and felt a slow, even pulse. She remembered winters when Lenora practiced scales until her fingers reddened, the stubbornness inside every perfect chord. "You are not finished," Amelia whispered to her. "You have not played the last note. Keep playing, sister." A shadow crossed the threshold. Belle stepped into the candlelight, lantern raised. A small brown vial caught between his fingers. Belle set the lantern on the floor and uncorked the small vial. "Hartshorn," he said, the word clipped, almost an oath. He brushed it under Lenora's nose. Her breath hitched. The chant swelled through the plaster like the sea shouldering Apia. Amelia gripped Lenora's hand and felt the faintest squeeze. A ghost of will returning. Clara did not move. "You will bring pain," she said. "You will not bring clarity. Pain is a sign the body is still receiving its messages." Belle answered. "You've been intercepting them." "I have been translating them," Clara said. Lenora's eyelids fluttered again, then stilled. Belle tipped a second vial to the tip of her tongue, bitter as copper. "Tincture of coffee and ammonia," he muttered. "We used it in the camps when men fell into opium sleep. War taught you to drag people back to the noise." Clara said, "I teach them to step out of it with dignity." Amelia slid her arm beneath Lenora's shoulders. "On 3, Belle said. "We lift." They raised her to sitting. The bed frame shuddered. The candle flame doubled, then split again, reflections bowing along the glass as if the room were multiplying itself. The hallway beyond the door lengthened like a ribbon pulled by hands unseen. Numbers slipped, reversed, and returned as glyphs. This house was an infirmary, Clara said conversationally, like a host pointing out crown molding. It remembers how to trige. It knows how to separate the fevers from the living. "It is not the house," Belle said. "It is the regimen. Language is a regimen. Prayer is a regimen. Charity is a regimen. I simply continue the work your institutions began." "Our institutions heal," he said. "They sought," she replied. "They always have." Lenora's head lolled against Amelia's shoulder. "Nora," Amelia whispered into her hair, "follow my voice like you followed my steps down the schoolhouse road." A tear slid along Lenora's temple, whether from the fumes or the memory, Amelia could not tell. Belle gathered the lantern and nodded toward the door. "We move now." Clara stepped aside and swept her hand toward the corridor like an usher. "Please," she said, "take what you think is yours." Amelia tightened her hold and crossed the threshold. The floor seemed to tilt underfoot as a tide change determined as law. The corridor swallowed their footsteps and returned them in a different order. Doors hissed as they passed. 3, 5, 7, then 2, then a circle, then a letter that might once have been an A. Somewhere, the layered chant kept time like a metronome operated by many hands. Amelia counted her breaths to keep from slipping into it. Lenora's weight was not heavy, but it was absolute, like a promise sealed in wax. "This place keeps what the town cannot admit," Clara said, following at a polite distance, voice low. "A preacher whose bones burned too loud. A nurse who trembled at night. Widows who could not stop crying. The mayor wanted his statistics neat. The mission wanted its miracles. I delivered both." "Be removing people," Belle said. "By relieving them," Clara replied. "And by relieving the city of scandal. Do you know what order sounds like? A night without news." A gust of sweet vapor pushed through the wallpaper vines. Bells, real bells, rang somewhere high where no bell should hang. The hallway arranged itself into a T. To the left numbers, to the right symbols. Straight ahead a door with no marking at all, only a bevel worn by careful hands. "The final room?" Clara said. "Then open it." Amelia answered. "It opens for those who consent." Clara said. "Not for thieves." Belle set the lantern down and reached into his bag, producing a folded square of gauze and a small bottle that bit the air with bitterness. "We are not thieves," he said. "We are kin." He wet the gauze and pressed it lightly to Lenora's lips, then temples. Her eyelids quivered. A sound escaped, raw, private, unfinished. "If you are still traveling this hallway with us, hold your name against the pull. Write, 'The veil is broken,' twice in the comments to anchor yourself to this world, and not the one the house is selling." The unmarked door breathed. Amelia felt a pressure like a hand considering her face. She stepped forward and pressed her palm to the bevel. Warmth met her skin, animal and intimate, as if the wood remembered the shape of despair. It did not open. The chant rose, the sweet vapor thickened. Clara lifted her head, listening like a conductor. "Hear it?" she asked. They are almost ready to take her back. And the house listened. The door trembled under Amelia's palm, yet held firm, as if the timber itself weighed judgment. Lenora stirred against her, a groan low and broken. Belle leaned close, whispering, "Keep her awake. Name her. Anchor her." Amelia obeyed. "Lenora, Nora, remember the schoolyard, the hymn we hated, the roses in mother's yard." The chant fought back, layering louder, each syllable woven with centuries of grief. The wallpaper pulsed. The floor flexed like muscle. Clara raised her hands, her eyes brimming with light not entirely human. "They beg for release," she said. "If you would see mercy, let go. Let her walk into the still place where no alarm can reach." Amelia clutched her tighter. "She is not yours. She is not theirs. She is mine, and she is her own." Belle uncorked another vial, poured its sharpness into the air. Ammonia burned the chant thin. The door before them cracked open, only an inch, but enough to spill white radiance. Inside not a room but a valley, gold-lit, with water streaming soundless, butterflies settling on the shoulders of unmoving figures who stood like sculptures in prayer. At the edge of the light, Lenora's shadow rose, reaching. Clara's voice thickened, almost breaking. If she goes, she never aches again. If you pull her, she suffers every day the world wounds her. Amelia stepped forward anyway, pressing Lenora's hand to the crack. Better pain that is ours than peace that is stolen. And the door flung wide. The light swallowed them. For a heartbeat, Amelia thought they had crossed. But the valley broke like glass, its brilliance collapsing into dust. They stood again in the chamber of jars, shelves quivering as though struck. Bottles toppled, powders bled into the air. Lenora coughed, eyes opening fully, startled and raw. Amelia, she rasped, voice a child's at first breath. The chant shattered mid-syllable. The house seemed to exhale, wood groaning like a ship relieved of cargo. Clara staggered. Her lamp flickered. "You fool," she said softly. "You've returned her to bruises, to hunger, to nights she will curse you for." But her authority had cracked. Bell lifted the lantern high. Faces stirred in the jars, not illusions, reflections of the preserved congregation stirring awake, mouths opening in soundless protest. The house had lost its script. Amelia held Lenora's face, tears cutting clean lines through suit. "I'd rather fight her suffering than bury her peace," she said. Lenora clung weakly, breathing the sharp scent of life. Clara set her lamp down with care. She did not strike nor weep. She only smoothed her skirt, as though hosting until the very end. "Then take her," she said, "that understand. The ledger does not erase. 41 are sealed, 41 are owed." She turned toward the cellar door. "And when the city needs silence again, they will knock at my door whether I stand or not." Bell guided them upward, through corridors that no longer shifted, doors hanging open to ordinary rooms. At the threshold, dawn pressed pale through curtains. Outside, Barrow Street woke to wagons and bells, to neighbors greeting neighbors. Life had not paused. No one knew what had been contested in the night. Lenora walked halting, leaning on Amelia's arm, her pulse steady but eyes wide with leftover light. "I dreamed," she whispered. "I dreamed I was happy, and I didn't want to leave." Amelia kissed her temple. "Then let's learn to make that dream in daylight." Behind them, the house sat quiet, windows blind, shutters closed. For now, the cellar door shut behind them with a sigh that felt almost human, as though the house mourned its own betrayal. Yet silence did not last. From below, a rustling grew, not the scuffle of rats, but the shuffle of many feet waking after long obedience. The preserved congregation stirred. Their prayers, long soundless, returned in broken whispers. Names half-spoken, verses half-finished. Bell froze at the threshold, his lantern shaking. "They're not dead," he muttered. "Not fully, suspended." Amelia gripped Lenora tighter. Her sister's eyes were open but glassy, as though still staring through the golden valley. "Keep moving," Amelia urged, though her own legs trembled. From the hallways behind them came the thud of doors opening one after another. The air grew sweet again, an invisible hand trying to coax Lenora back into that half-place. She clutched her head. "Amelia, I hear them calling. They're saying my name." Clara followed them into the hall, her lamp swaying low. She looked no longer like a hostess but like a widow at a graveside. "Do you see now?" she asked. "The world won't let them go, and it won't let them live. They beg me to choose for them. You've undone that mercy. They'll wander until despair eats them." "And you call that love?" Bell turned sharply. "What you call mercy is theft. You stole their choice. You dressed oblivion as healing." Clara's expression flickered, as suffering a choice. "Tell me, doctor, when you cut off limbs in the camps, when men screamed for you to end it, did you call their pain sacred? Or did you envy me, who can make the screaming stop without knives?" Bell flinched. He had no reply. The voices behind them swelled. Amelia pulled Lenora up the staircase, whispering, "Don't listen, Nora. Just breathe." But Lenora's mouth opened in answer, not to her sister, but to the chant returning in her ears. The parlor was unchanged, lace curtains, porcelain figurines, a piano polished to a mirror. But as Amelia guided Lenora inside, the air thickened again, heavy with invisible hands pressing against their ribs. The figures from the cellar were no longer contained. They lined the walls, heads bowed, lips moving in half-formed prayers. They did not advance, only stood in witness, like a congregation awaiting their sermon. Their eyes followed Amelia, followed Lenora. Clara set her lamp upon the mantel. Its glow stretched too far, illuminating the corners of the room as though the house itself extended its reach. "Do you think I invented this?" she asked softly. "This hunger for quiet. The city begged me for it. The mayor's wife wept when I soothed her brother. The mission funded me when I kept widows from scandal. They bring me their broken, and I give them back order." Amelia's voice cracked. "You keep their bodies, their lives, like trophies." "No," Clara said, "like liturgy, every jar, every card, a record that pain was answered. Without me, this city would choke on its own grief. I gave them silence. That is the one thing no doctor, no preacher, no mother can give." Belle spat. "You gave them erasure." Clara's eyes narrowed. "What is death, doctor?" But erasure made legal. The congregation stirred, their whispers rising to a hum. Lenora clutched her ears. "They're asking me to come back," she gasped. "They're saying I don't belong in the noise." Amelia pulled her close. "You belong with me." She looked Clara dead in the eyes. "And I'll drag you through every scream and every disappointment until you remember how to live. That's love, not silence." The floor shuddered. The piano struck a chord by itself, harsh and wrong. The house was no longer content to watch. The parlor walls rippled like water under heat. Doors appeared where none had been, then vanished again, each one painted with numbers, circles, or letters that shifted when glanced at directly. The floor tilted, spilling porcelain from shelves. The figurines shattered like brittle bones. Amelia and Belle staggered, dragging Lenora toward the front door. But every step lengthened the hall. The handle receded, retreating deeper into shadows. "The house doesn't want her to leave," Belle hissed. "No," Clara corrected. "The house doesn't want its debt unpaid." The congregation began to sing, not in unison, each voice at its own pace like 41 clocks wound imperfectly. The sound was unbearable, a hymn broken into shards, endless, unresolved. Lenora buckled, her knees gave way, and she cried out, "Amelia, it's pulling me!" Her body jerked as if strings guided her toward the congregation. Amelia threw her arms around her. "Hold on, Nora. Hold on." Belle fumbled with his satchel, pulling a scalpel and slashing his own palm. He smeared the blood across the doorframe, muttering, "Ancha, mark name." His voice broke, but the handle flickered closer, solidifying for an instant. The house howled. Windows cracked without shattering. The hymn bent into a roar. Clara watched without interference, her face calm again. "It is not me holding her," she said. "It is the part of her that wants release. That is stronger than any lock." Lenora's body convulsed, her head snapping back as her eyes rolled white. Amelia screamed her name, slapped her cheeks, begged her to return. For a moment, Lenora's lips moved in time with the congregation, her voice blending into their fractured hymn. Belle thrust another vial beneath her nose, the ammonia biting the air. Lenora gagged, coughed, eyes fluttering open, wet and wild. "It hurts!" she gasped. "It hurts everywhere!" Amelia rocked her, weeping. "Yes, it will hurt, but you'll feel and you'll sing and you'll laugh and you'll curse me. And that is life." The congregation wavered, their hymn faltering as if confused by her defiance. Clara stepped forward, her hands open. "Let me take her. Just one more night. She'll decide herself. If she chooses to return, I won't stop her. But if she chooses to stay, she'll be free forever." Amelia shook her head violently. "You don't bargain with grief. You don't make contracts with despair." Lenora moaned, clutching her stomach, fighting for breath. The floor rippled beneath them, warping into a slope that dragged them toward the congregation. Belle dug his bloodied hand into the doorframe, holding on with a snarl. "No! Amelia!" "Pull her!" The front door's handle gleamed impossibly near. They surged toward it. Amelia's muscles burned as she dragged Lenora, Belle shoving from behind. The hymn rose to a scream. Hands reached from the walls, parchment thin, translucent, clutching. One grazed Amelia's hair, another her sleeve, pulling with desperate gentleness, as if begging her to join them instead of fighting. Clara stood unmoving, her face serene. "You think you've won," she said, "but remember, pain multiplies. The city will return. The ledger will refill. You can't stop it by saving one. She'll curse you for waking her." Amelia locked eyes with her. "Then let her curse me every day. At least her voice will be her own." With a final heave, she tore Lenora through the threshold. Belle stumbled after, slamming the door behind them. The house shrieked. Not wood, not stone, but something vast and wounded. The sound rattled every window on Barrow Street, then silence, complete smothering silence. Clara did not follow. Dawn was grey, unremarkable. Wagons rattled, roosters crowed, neighbours nodded greetings. To the city, the night had passed untouched. But on the steps of 63 Barrow, Amelia held Lenora upright. Her sister trembled, her eyes wide with the residue of dreams. She looked at the street as though it were foreign land. "It hurts," she whispered again. "Every step hurts." Amelia kissed her hair. "Good, that means you're here." Abel wrapped his bleeding hand with a strip of cloth. His eyes were hollow, his shoulders heavy. "She was right about one thing," he said quietly. "They'll bring more to her. The city needs its silence too much." Amelia turned, staring at the shuttered windows. The house stood motionless, as though nothing had ever happened inside. Yet she felt it watching, patient, like a beast not slain, but merely waiting for hunger to return. She tightened her grip on Lenora. "Then we never let her go back. We fight every day. We hold the pain, not hide it. That's the only way." Lenora's hand twitched in hers, weak but certain. She looked at her sister, voice small but steady. "Stay with me, Amelia, no matter how loud it gets." Amelia smiled through tears. Always behind them, the house remained, silent, sealed. But inside, 41 voices still hummed, unfinished, waiting for the ledger to open again.